Hello, I'm Danny Harrison, and this is the public speaking class. I'm doing my second speech on gluten-free, dairy-free chaffles and how to make them. This is my audience. These are my kids, and they're going to be my audience today. So, my wife and I stumbled upon this recipe for dairy-free, gluten-free chaffles, not because we were trying to be gluten-free, but because of just wanting to eat less bread, and we were trying to eat more protein and stuff like that, kind of a keto diet. So that's why we came across these. But then we found that a lot of people have digestive issues that they could benefit from doing the gluten-free part of this same recipe. So we I've shared this with other people, and it does actually, like, it also hurts our stomach sometimes to eat bread or too much bread. So this has been a perfect solution for that to have with burgers or even just sandwiches, toast, whatnot. So then, upon further research, I've learned that the Mayo Clinic and the Johns Hopkins University medical professionals there, they agree that especially the people with celiac disease, they suffer from a small intestine issue where the gluten, which is a protein, goes in there and actually tears holes into the small intestine. So they tell them not to eat gluten at all if they have celiac disease. But then there are other people who have similar symptoms, maybe not the holes in the small intestines, but they still have digestive issues and so on. So a lot of people may want to look at that. But this is a great recipe for people with those sorts of digestive issues, or just if you want a high protein, low carb alternative. And so the first thing you need to know are the ingredients, which are really simple, and most of these are around your house, except for one, and I'll lead out with that. But the recipe calls for 1 tablespoon of almond flour. This is probably the less likely thing to have around, but it's really not that expensive. You don't use a ton of it. The second one is 1 tablespoon of mayonnaise, just real mayonnaise, and you want 1 egg, a tablespoon of water, 1/8 tablespoon of baking powder, and so yeah, just an 1/8 tablespoon. I'll get back to that in a second, of baking powder, and then optional but recommended is a 1/8 teaspoon, of salt and an 1/8 teaspoon of black pepper. So I recommend doing this times 8, so you can multiply all the ingredients times 8. It makes it easier to measure out, and also gives you more chaffles to eat. So one recipe makes up on my machine. I use a waffle maker here, and it'll make 1.5 waffles. So really, you need to do a little bit more to get more of the waffles. And they're called chaffles because originally they're cheese waffles. But we don't put the cheese part in normally, though you can. And so that's a kind of an extra optional ingredient would be some kind of shredded cheese you can mix in there. And you just have to experiment with how much you can use and keep the shape and all that. But those are quite nice as well. And the procedure is to preheat your waffle iron. Again, I use this one from the 1980s, and it has some automatic settings on it. It tells you when it's ready. It tells you when to take the waffles back out and that kind of thing. But you can also use a skillet or a frying pan. And you want to use the same heat that you would do pancakes at, because it's essentially it's kind of like a pancake batter. And as I said before, you want to multiply the ingredients as needed. So I tend to do 8 or 9 or 10 even. And you can combine the ingredients in any order, and then you whisk them. And you can even just use a hand whisk. You whisk them till it's smooth. This takes a while. So you might want to use one of these, kind of a electric whisk, or a blender or something like that, or electric mixer, anything that gets it nice and smooth. And then you pour the batter evenly in the waffle iron, or however big you want it to spread out to in the pan. It won't really spread wide, but it'll raise up. So then you want to cook them till they're done thoroughly, and you cool them on a baker's rack, or whatever these are called. I call them a cooling rack or a baker's rack. And so you want to, when they're done, you want to put them on there. Then you want to store them in an airtight container. And so I'll take one out and show you what it looks like. Like I said, we use them for sandwich bread. So you have these, and they're really good. They store nicely, and if you're into ketchup mayonnaise on your hamburger, these little pockets hold it nicely in there. Barbecue sauce, mayonnaise, whatever you do. So those are the ingredients and the procedures for making the chaffles. I highly recommend them. We have been doing this recipe for about 3 or 4 years, and it's again, it's helpful for people with celiac disease, although there's not that many people that have it. I think about 2 million in the country. But also, if you have other digestive issues or just a good low carb bread alternative, you can get creative and add extra ingredients in them and make them how you like. So thanks for listening.